Welcome to another episode of Action Video Game Talk. I'm your host, Scott Action Jackson. Thanks for joining me today, or tonight, or whenever you're watching or listening to this episode. I do have another list of news articles to go through, so let's go ahead and hop right into them. The Pokemon Pinball sequel and Game Boy Advance Super Mario World port are now available on the Wii U. Pokemon Pinball Ruby and Sapphire is the sequel to the Game Boy's Pokemon Pinball. Super Mario World, Super Mario Advance 2, may have the world's most redundant name and contains a number of small changes to the original Super Nintendo game. The original Super Nintendo release of Super Mario World is also available on the Virtual Console. Is it me, or does it seem strange that none of the actual main Pokemon games are being released on the Virtual Console on either the Wii U or the 3DS/2DS. I mean, it's nice that they're making some of these other offshot games. I'm wondering when they will finally get around to releasing some of the original main Pokemon games. Another thing that confuses me is why they would release the Game Boy Advance version of the Super Mario World game. I mean, according to this, it says that there was some small changes made from the original Super Nintendo game, but I mean, you could probably just have some of those add-ons as an additional download for the Super Mario World download itself. To me, sometimes it just confuses me what stuff that they actually put on the Virtual Console and what they actually should put there. I mean, there's so many games that they could put on the Virtual Console to please many fans, but Nintendo is kind of, I don't know, I guess, sensitive, touchy with some of the stuff for some reason. Sony is rewarding the patience of PlayStation Network users impacted by the server's downtime over the holidays. All the PlayStation Plus users with an active membership or free trial on December 25th will receive a free 5-day extension to their memberships, according to the PS blog. In addition to the extended memberships, PSN users will receive a one-time use 10% discount on any total cart purchase. The coupon will be available for a limited time and can be used towards games, add-ons, season passes, or TV shows and movies. A date for when the 5-day extension or the coupon code will become available has not yet been set. Sony says an announcement will come at a later date. The rewards come as a result of the PSN service being taken offline by a distributed denial of service, or DDoS, attacks that began on December 24th. The outage persisted sporadically through December 29th, after which Sony finally stabilized the service. Many PlayStation 4 users were required to change their console's MTU settings due to updates on the PSN. I like the fact that Sony is trying to make up for all this BS that happened during the holiday time, that the network was actually down, mostly for PlayStation 4 users. They are offering 5-day extensions to the PlayStation Plus memberships, but the one thing, well, one of the many things that they put here that I don't quite understand is the 10% discount on total cart purchase. Why do that? I mean, why couldn't they offer something else? Maybe a free purchase in the PlayStation Network store? That would have made a little bit more sense. Now, for those of you who don't know what is going on as far as this little outage that happened, the networks of not only Sony's online service of the PSN network, but also the Xbox Live Marketplace and stuff was going down too, which stayed down most of the Christmas time, so December 25th, and I think on December 26th, the Xbox Microsoft got theirs up, but for people with a PlayStation 4, they still had a couple more days where it was down. And this was all due to the DDoS, distributed denial of service, which there's been a few different people claiming to be responsible for it. One is like a group called Lizard something. The only problem here is some people who said that they were responsible for it said that they did people a favor by shutting it off during the Christmas time. No, you didn't. Do you realize how many people got new systems and wanted to try them out on Christmas or the day after Christmas and wasn't able to because of you jackasses? But to me, Sony could do a lot better with their apology offers. If we're lucky, maybe they will later on. But another issue here is the fact that they didn't say when this stuff would become available, as far as like the extension of the 5 days for the PlayStation Plus, or when this coupon can be used, or how you're going to get it. Square Enix has given an update on upcoming content for its popular MMO Final Fantasy XIV Online: A Realm Reborn. The studio plans multiple patches to close out the story of the rebirth of Enosa, and will add the Manorville Gold Saucer before the upcoming Heavensward expansion is released, according to a Final Fantasy XIV email newsletter. Patch 2.5 is scheduled to roll out in mid-January and will include roughly 2/3 of the main final scenario content, known as Before the Fall. The patch will also introduce 3 new dungeons, as well as more content for the 24-player raid, the Crystal Tower, including its third and final part, the World of Darkness. The second part of the Before the Fall content will come in a patch expected to be released in March. But before that happens, Square Enix will finally introduce the long-awaited Gold Saucer. The newsletter confirms patch 2.51 will include the Manorville Ghost Saucer, complete with Chocobo Racing, Chocobo Breeding, and the Triple Triad card game that originally appeared in Final Fantasy VIII. No date was given for when patch 2.51 can be expected to roll out. Final Fantasy XIV Heavensward is due out in early 2015 and will add flying mounts, personal airships, and 2 new jobs and races. Now, first off, I do apologize if I got any of the names of these expansions or places wrong. I just recently hopped back into Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn, so I'm not really that good with the major storyline as far as stuff. Now, Square Enix is giving us a little bit of a heads up about the new updates that are coming out, or new patches. One being called the Heavensward, and then there's supposed to be this Before the Fall content. Now, all this is supposed to include additional story stuff, and these Manorville Gold Saucers, Chocobo Racing, Chocobo Breeding, Triple Triad card game, flying mounts, that's going to be interesting, personal airships, 2 new jobs and races. And as it says here, no date was given for when the patch 2.51 can be expected. But the Heavensward is due out in early 2015, so patch 2.5 is supposed to be out in mid-January, so this Heavensward is probably this, if it's not the January time for it, it'll probably be, February, maybe, I don't know. A trademark for a project known as Dragon's Dogma Online has been filed in Japan, Europe, and the United States. Initially filed on December 2nd in Japan, December 5th in the US and Europe, the filing was only recently been made public. At this time, no information about the title, or if it is even in production, is known. Released in 2012, Dragon's Dogma is an open-world fantasy RPG in which players hunt down a dragon. Its first major expansion, Dark Arisen, had players on an island to fight new enemies and death itself. For me, I'm hoping Capcom doesn't do what tried to happen with Elder Scrolls Online. Elder Scrolls Online became a PC game at first, and then they did announce that there was going to be a console version. And then the console version got pushed back forever and indefinitely because there was so many issues with the PC version. Hopefully, Capcom doesn't do any crap like that, and if we're lucky, it might be coming out on the consoles and PC at the same time. Dragon's Dogma has been like a different take on an Elder Scrolls-like type of game. You got your fantasy type, and I know in the Dragon's Dogma game it had a great bit of detail as far as crafting and creating stuff. It says here, released back in 2012, was the original Dragon's Dogma game. But then when the expansion came out, the Dark Arisen, you didn't just get only the expansion, unless of course you were downloading it. But as far as the physical retail version of the Dark Arisen, it also included the basic Dragon's Dogma game too. So you had everything on one package. I'm guessing we will eventually hear some more stuff with this Dragon's Dogma Online. They gotta be announcing some info probably at least at E3 this year. Otherwise, they'll probably have their own kind of little announcement stuff announcing whatever they're planning on it, or planning with it, whatever. Kung Lao, the classic Mortal Kombat character, has been revealed as part of Mortal Kombat X's roster, according to Finnish magazine. Test Your Might forum user Arrow Grunt provided a translation in a post that includes images of a much older looking Kung Lao and details about his various gameplay styles: Tempest, Buzzsaw, and Hat Trick. Players can use Kung Lao's hat as a shield spinning around him, or throw it and call it back anytime the player wants. Online features will play a larger role in Mortal Kombat X. Players will be able to choose from 5 factions: Lin Kuei, White Lotus, Brotherhood of Shadows, Special Force, and Black Dragon, and earn battle points for the chosen faction. This will determine how a player's in-game single-player or multiplayer menus will look, among other things. Mortal Kombat X takes place 25 years after the last installment in the series. Quan Chi was confirmed as a playable character back in October. Around the same time, series creator Ed Boon teased an image of boots that represent more characters yet to be revealed. Now, I thought Kung Lao was one of the characters that was killed off in the Mortal Kombat reboot game, because there was quite a few characters that was killed off in that game that were still around for a long while in the normal timeline. I am happy to hear that Kung Lao is coming back for Mortal Kombat X, but the fact that this game is taking place 25 years after the reboot, which kind of screwed up the Mortal Kombat timeline, well, I actually should say screwed up the timeline more than it was already screwed up. I do like what I'm hearing as far as these online features, being able to choose 5 factions, and more or less it'll determine how some of the functions are with like the menus and stuff. You can choose the Lin Kuei, the White Lotus, Brotherhood of Shadows, Special Forces, and Black Dragon. Now, I'm sure most of these are going to have, like it says here, the menus will look different, among other things. So I'm guessing the menus will have like some of the main characters from these factions. The Lin Kuei will probably have, Sub-Zero and maybe Scorpion. Black Dragon will probably have Kano. Special Forces, if Sony and Jax are coming back, they might be in there. Might. But remember, we don't know the full cast that's going to be back. Plus, we only know a handful right now. Well, that's it for this episode of Action Video Game Talk. Once again, thanks for joining me today, or tonight, or whenever you're watching or listening to this episode. Later on, I will have the separate clips up if you want to go check those out. Down below, I will have the Facebook link if you want to go and check out the Facebook page. Now, Action Video Game Talk is inching closer to the 1-year mark from when the show first started. But I'm going to try and film like a little bit of a recap video blog, if you will, and I will eventually have that up at some point. Try to keep an eye out on the YouTube page here, otherwise check out the Facebook page and keep an eye on there, and I'm sure I'll probably be updating it when the 1-year mark hits. Until next time, bye.